him not one red cent. We're not sending money willy-nilly all over the government to whatever department he tells us to. Absolutely not. Read the fine print. Read your promissory note. Those loans are held by the Department of Education. And if that department no longer exists, neither do my loans. Matter of a fact, if you're firing everybody, firing half the workforce, sent everybody home with their laptop, told them to work remotely, everybody that's at home, why don't you go ahead, press a few buttons, touch the keyboard, and get rid of all our student loans. Go ahead and eradicate them right now. Because we're not paying them anyway. If you think the Department of Education closing has nothing to do with you, really? If you work in K-12 education, if you're a teacher in K-12 education, if you're a principal, administrator, if you have a child in K-12 education, this affects you too. Billions of dollars go to fund public education annually. If you work in higher education, any aspect of college or university education, if you're a student in education, if you're a parent that has a college educated child, this affects you too. You have graduated from college and now have student loan debt. This affects you also. They manage and allocate over $100 billion in student loans, $30 billion in Pell Grants. Those are about to be cut. Federal loans about to be cut. Institutional aid to colleges about to be cut. Some colleges might have to close, especially state-funded colleges that depend on federal funding. They may not operate or have the funds to operate or be operational. My husband and I both too.
Who does she think she is? Walking into that seat as if she belongs there. The audacity to be the first. Dr. Paula L. Jackson, the first female interim athletics director at Texas Southern University. And now, for the first time ever, Texas Southern's athletic director's core functions are now led by an all-female athletic director staff. This Women's History Month, Texas Southern University celebrates women who are rooted in resilience and blooming in power. So if you're still asking, who does she think she is? She's Texas Southern University.
To get rid of the term YN. That's our problem. The term YN is so derogatory. Other races are using it as like gospel YN. Like, why is that you like? And it's funny, but it's like sad at the same time because we're conditioning ourselves to be put in that position.
Who all participated in the quarter zip trend?
That's a lifestyle, not a trend.
You shouldn't have to go quarter zip in a bunch of t-shirts. Feel like that you a well-standing, upstanding citizen.
Right.
Like black men have always prided themselves on dressing up nice, smelling good, and all that. This ain't nothing new.
Yeah.
All that's that whitewash, YN culture, like she was saying.
Exactly. It goes back to that.
Like I said, black men have been doing it. 3-piece suits and canes and kangos, all that. They've been doing it. They put so much emphasis on the YN. They be excluded.
I had to correct a friend on that because my little brothers are the people who dress like what you would consider like a YN, but they're just into streetwear fashion. That is just a part of being a black person. That is a part of us. Right. And I'm like, okay, well, like they ain't out here in the streets running and stuff like that. That's just how they like to
And that was
dress.
her point too, is what she was saying, that that's why they don't like it, because it's a derogatory thing actually to be called a YN.
Peace and love, and welcome to Black Press USA's morning show, where we bring you the headlines and the culture. And I'm really excited about our co-host this morning. She is the managing editor of The Hilltop newspaper at Howard University. Welcome, Aniyah Genama. Did I say that right?
Genama.
Yes.
Thank you for having me this morning.
I'm so excited to have you. We met last week on the campus of Howard University. And were we in the student union? Was that the student union that we were at?
No, well, it's like our student center, to use like the term loosely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, welcome. And you saw our first video starting with student loans. Wanted to get your thoughts. Let's start with that one. What are your thoughts on the status of student loans being transferred to the Treasury Department? And what's the Yard saying about student loans and what's happening in our government?
Student loans is always a pretty hot topic on campus, and I don't even want to limit it to just the campus of Howard University, but student loans, as we know, is an intergenerational problem, right? So the transferring of these funds and just the kind of the fear and the insecurity that it causes with the people around me is something very unsettling to see. My mom is actually a teacher, and she's getting her specialist degree right now. So these are all the things that we have to think about. And I think sometimes when people say like, oh, I didn't go to college, that doesn't mean someone else in your family or someone else in your village may not. So I think this is something that we all need to be very aware of and very tuned into, because it's not just student loans, but it's also teachers, it's administration, it's all the things that we take for granted.
And then our next video, we just want to give a shout out since we're talking about HBCUs today. Shout out to Texas Southern and their women's department, athletic department. They're doing big things over there. And then our last video was about the term YN. What are your thoughts about that?
On both?
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So for one, I'm going to support any HBCU, right? So what they're doing at Texas Southern is something beautiful. Howard is a predominantly women campus. So yeah, so I'm glad to see that this is now like that women are now I shouldn't say now, but women are stepping into roles of leadership that have historically or typically been given to men. And I'm glad that they're given the opportunity to show that they're able to run things just as efficiently. And that they're able to bring a new culture when you're having an all-female staff. And as far as the term YN, I think I agree with what the students were saying about how it is a derogatory term. It's another slick way to say I don't even have to say it. It's fill in the blank. Right. I think it is derogatory. I think what the host was saying about just young boys being into streetwear and fashion culture, that's just what it is. I'm from Metro Atlanta, so I see all types of different culture, a streetwear culture or fashion that may be considered like YN culture to some people. In reality, that's just us. That's what we're doing, and I think it's unfair to stereotype these boys for like being this sort of person or assuming that they're affiliated with these sort of things just because of what they might have on. I mean, this is a chronic issue that we've always struggled with.
For sure. Aquarius, the only real sign, 79, is saying HU. There we go. So the chat is chatting already. And when we start the show, we do a morning poll. And since, you're in the house, HU is in the house, we're going to start the poll with the HBCU culture. So chat, it's time for you to chime in. And Aniyah, we want to know what you think. What is the absolute GOAT?
Yes.
The greatest of all time when we say that for a HBCU tradition? Is it the homecoming experience, the marching band, the Divine Nine, or the Battle of the Fashion? So chat, chime in if you think it's A, homecoming, B, the marching band, the C, the Divine Nine, or D, the Battle of Fashion when it comes to what captures the HBCU experience. Jump in the chat. And Aniyah, what would you say is the GOAT of HBCU out of those options?
So it's difficult because, well, for one, for me, it's between homecoming and the street. You said it was a street catwalk. I think because homecoming is a once a year event, it cannot encompass like HBCU culture, right? Like, it's a part of HBCU culture, but it's not the entire thing. But the street, the sidewalk catwalk is something that I see every day. So I think that is a little more reflective of HBCU culture, and it definitely I think it ingrains in your mind like how you want to be perceived, how you want to dress, and that's what you see every day besides that 1 week of homecoming.
Okay, so see, I think I'm torn between homecoming and the marching band because maybe I'm out of it. But when I think of how people who haven't had an HBCU experience, if they go to a homecoming or the marching band, right? Because everybody wants the marching band at their Christmas, at the Macy's Christmas parade, at the Rose Bowl, at their NFL halftime show. It's like the marching band captures what that HBCU experience is like. And then with homecoming, you can always go back to that school day scene. And I have on my 40 Acres and a Mule Spike Lee school day sweatshirt representing GSU, Grambling State University. But I think those two, for me, I guess as an alumni, capture the HBCU experience. But I can, when you said that the sidewalk catwalk, I remember being on the yard, and after we went to the cafeteria, everybody would kind of stand outside, but you had your best outfit on because you wanted to be seen. I remember I used to have this suit, and I just thought, when I put that suit on, oh, this is what I'm wearing when I'm right outside the CAF, and the Kappas are across the street, the Alphas are over there, and the Megas are over there. So, but I get it. I totally get it. The chat is saying, homecoming. Orange G is saying homecoming because the nation tries to duplicate an HBCU homecoming from PWI to high school. They try to duplicate the HBCU homecoming experience. See, he's an alumni. He's a little older. Michelle says, when I attended Morgan State University, I don't recall catwalks. Explain, please. I think you did. And said, Michelle says, I'm aging myself. So, but there's nothing like that HBCU experience. And when I walked on Howard's campus last week, I was so excited. I called my niece who's at Texas Southern just to show her, look where I'm at. I'm on HU's campus. So Chad, keep chiming in and tell us what you think the greatest experience is on a HBCU campus. And Aniyah, since you're here, I have a question for you. As you balance the newspaper and getting your degree, how do you survive a busy Thursday morning? Is it A, pure caffeine, coffee, tea? Is it B, high energy playlist? Is it C, total silence before your first class? Or hitting that snooze button just a few more times?
I would say, it's a mix of all of those things. It's a mix of a couple of So I'm a big tea person. I like more fruity types of tea, and anyone that sees me on campus like sees my little travel tea mug, so that gets me through the day. And also I do hit the snooze button a couple more times in the morning, but I give myself time to hit the snooze button, so I'm not late. I'm just slowly starting my day.
Okay. I think it's a bit off for me. Sometimes it's a playlist, sometimes. Well, I definitely have my coffee right now. So yeah. But let's get into these headlines. And some of them are mixed with HBCU vibes. So chat, we want you to chime in. And our first story is a study that found going to an HBCU might be better for Black students' health. So the authors of a sampled study, they sampled about 2,000 Black American adults who attended college between 1940 and 1980, and who attended a high school in the state of a HBCU. They came to the conclusion that there may be a correlation between collegiate environment and long-term wellness. Now, during the time frame of attendance, the two major policy implementations that shaped schooling in the country, that's why they did it between 1940 and 1980, because in 1952, of course, it was Brown versus Board of Education that ruled against segregation in schools, and they stated that it was unconstitutional. And the second was the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which barred racial discrimination in schools. So that's why that time period of polling happened. But the study mined differences between Black students who attended college during a time when they were largely prevented from attending white colleges, and Black students who attended college after segregation were outlawed. And so they said that there was more stress for Black students who attended PWIs versus an HBCU. And let's fast forward to your time, and even my time, because I'm Gen X. Do you feel like being on an HBCU campus is a safe space versus a PWI?
I would say yes. I really have nothing else to compare to. I've been at Howard all 4 years, and I was fortunate enough to go to like elementary, middle school, and high school with a large variety of people. So I can't speak to the PWI experience fully, but I will say that being at an HBCU is a very, at least for me, like as a Black woman, it is a very positive and uplifting experience.
I mean, I think I'll agree. I was just saying Sunday at church that going to an HBCU really helped me tap into my Blackness, especially being from the state of California, right? Because we're such a diverse state. So I went to high school with whites, Blacks, Latinos, Asians. So to go to Grambling and have that experience in an all Black culture, if the professors, you know, care about you in a special way, right?
Yeah.
They want to see you excel in life. And I just don't know if you get that through a PWI. And if you're in the chat, let us know if you went to a PWI and if you went to a HBCU, what your thoughts are when it comes to colleges and your experience. I feel like there is a stress of when you go to a PWI that you always have to do more. You know, it's kind of like when Michelle Obama says when they were in the White House, they couldn't fail because all eyes were on them. I feel like that's what happens when you go to a PWI. I'm not saying that you're not accepted. I'm just saying that there is a certain level that you always have to go higher, right? Because of the environment. Nancy Wall wants to know, what is the student participation in voting at Howard? She just threw that out there.
I'm going to assume that you mean like the presidential election, like voting in that way.
Just probably across the board. Like
across the board. I would say Howard, I don't have any like hard statistics off top of my head right now, but Howard, the students are very like politically active group of people, especially when it came to the presidential election in 2024. I mean, it was just all hands on deck. Like starting as soon as Vice President Kamala Harris announced her run for presidency, it was a bunch of organizing happening on campus. There's different student groups being formed to support her and her win. And it was an all hands on deck kind of effort. And I would say when it comes to other elections, it's the same. And I think it's kind of a trend that people don't talk about other elections as often. And I think on Howard's campus, we just try our best to amplify those elections that are just as important, but not as popular.
I know when I was there last week, I guess you guys have an election coming up, and I saw all of the students campaigning, and they had
elections. Campaign season is also very fun as well. Students definitely show up for that because it's a time to put yourself on display. Like you have your friends who are running as well, you have your classmates who are running. You want to try your best to support everyone. So students definitely get involved in the elections on campus too.
I see. Let's head to this next story where a jury has found Meta and YouTube negligent in a landmark lawsuit on social media safety. Take a look at what Don Lemon had to say about this. Hey, Greer. So while she's getting that video together, oh, there we go. We can't hear it.
Negligent in this landmark social media addiction case. Here's what the jury found. They found the companies negligent in their app designs, that they were harming a young user with design features that were addictive and then led to her mental health distress. And then Meta and YouTube must pay now $3 million in compensatory damages for pain and suffering and other financial burdens. This is a real bellwether case, which was brought by a now 20-year-old woman. She's 20 years old now. She's only identified as KGM. And she had accused the social media companies of creating products as addictive as cigarettes or digital casinos. Enormous ramifications throughout the industry. This verdict is one of thousands of lawsuits filed by teenagers, school districts, state attorneys general against Meta, YouTube, TikTok, and Snap. Snap owns Snapchat. A major win for the plaintiffs. What this says is that social media sites or apps can cause personal injuries. So look out for similar cases in the future. This is enormous news. We're going to update you when we get more information into the Don Lemon Show.
So the jurors awarded the plaintiff $3 million in damages, finding Meta 70% responsible for harm caused to her and YouTube responsible for 30%. And so they're saying that this could really have an impact on your timeline, what you see. What are your thoughts about this, Aniyah?
So I think, well, as someone who grew up in the age of social media, right? So a little bit before it kind of took off, I think people my age kind of saw this coming, not in terms of the verdicts, but the harm that social media causes for people. And there have been countless studies proving that there is a correlation between the two. So I'm glad that the court system is now catching up to that. But these are things that we have known for quite some time now.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's really, we're in a really interesting time because social media and technology is so new. I mean, it's not even really 30, is it 30 years old? I don't even think it's 30 years old. And so when we look at government, like you have the FCC to regulate television and radio, right? You have agencies to regulate the stock market. You have agencies within the federal government to regulate energy. But there is no agency to regulate technology because it's so new. And I think that's what our nation is trying to figure out, is how do you regulate something that has free reign? There's nothing to oversee what's happening. And so now you have these lawsuits. And so it'll be interesting to see. I don't think we're going to see it under this Trump administration because he's all about free range. Do what you want. As long as I get a cut, right? But technology does need to be regulated, just like we regulate radio, television, and everything else in this nation. And so they'll continue to have these struggles and these lawsuits until you have some type of oversight over technology. I want to jump in. The chat is saying, Nancy Wall says, thank you, Aniyah. Continue to speak truth to power. And then Michelle Madison chimed in on our previous story. She said she went to an all-girls school and where she was the minority. And she says, when I got to Morgan State, I woke up. The professors kept it real and were instrumental in molding my thoughts about reality. Same thing I thought and said. So I think that HBCUs are very important.
Yes.
Especially now in a time where they're trying to erase Black history. An HBCU is going to make sure you get your full Black experience.
And I also want to say that if we have time, that simply attending an HBCU isn't enough, right? So you could say that I go to an HBCU and now understand everything about Black culture. You still have to be an active participant in learning about yourself. So simply being around Black students, Black people, Black teachers isn't enough. It's helpful, but you actually have to do the work yourself to engage with your professors and engage with your classmates to make sure that you're getting the full scope of the experience.
All right. Now let's jump to a story that's trending in headlines, and it's happening at HU. So popular K-pop group BTS has confused its fans and members of the HBCU community with its depiction of Howard University's campus in a new album teaser. So the HBCU's yard and signature building Founders Library were used in the teaser for the group's upcoming LP, but some viewers were not pleased over the depiction of its student body. Now, the animation only showcased a few Black students in the video, with the rest presented as white or other races. While having an international student body, we know Howard University is predominantly Black. So what is the Hilltop saying, and what's the Yard saying about this, Aniyah?
So, of course, the Hilltop reported on this, and we got the perspective of a bunch of students. And I think we were all pretty confused on why Howard was used for this. I think some students feel, and this is just me talking to students personally, I think some students feel like this is another example of people profiting off of Black culture, right? So you're going to use a school like Howard University to maybe tap into a new market that you're not tapped into, or get further into that market. And while it may have been no malicious intent on their end, it's something that we feel protective of, because we know how hard it was for us to even have this space, and we know how hard it was to even to build a legacy that Howard University has now. So I think it was a bit insensitive, and I think it was a bit out of touch with how things should be, with how things should be approached, and also not even having an accurate depiction of the student body on campus. Just added salt to the wound.
Now, have you heard from BTS?
No, we have not heard from BTS.
Did they get permission to do this, or they just randomly picked Howard and just said, "Hey, this is what we're doing"?
Now, I'm not sure what happened behind the scenes with how they got Howard's name, image, and likeness, but I know that there was shock, right? So I can't speculate, but the students were a bit confused about it.
It'll be interesting to see if they give an apology for it or something like that. So we'll have to continue to track this story. And I guess, everybody, make sure you track the Hilltop, because I know that you guys are covering this.
Yes.
All right. So our next story takes us to Dallas, where they began removing crosswalks honoring Black and queer community on Monday. So in October, a directive from Governor Greg Abbott ordered all political non-standard surfaces markings be removed. So many rainbow crosswalks in historically gay neighborhoods of Oak Lawn were already washed away by early afternoon Monday, and Black Lives Matter crosswalks in South Dallas and other designs in Uptown, and up to 30 total are also slated for removal. Now, the city said in a memo last week that the new crosswalks will be installed by April 28th. And we know in DC, they've already taken away the Black Lives Matter display that was there. What are your thoughts about, the removal of, crosswalks that reflect culture, that reflect diversity and inclusion? That's totally just being erased, but they are replacing and putting up Christopher Columbus statues and bringing back Robert E. Lee statues, but erasing away diversity. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's petty, and I think it's intentional. And while I don't think all the work that we do as Black people should be just culminated in like us getting something like painted on the sidewalk, right? I think there are actual things that we need to receive for the work that we do beyond just aesthetic, or just having like little indications of it. I think there is actual systemic change that should be happening, and having those little like reminders aren't enough, but it definitely adds to the picture of what we're trying to do in this country. And I think taking away the little that we do get, the little I guess the wins that we do get, it's intentional and it's petty. And I think it just shows how far willing people are to go, how far people are willing to go to make sure to remind us and to, I guess, quote unquote, put us back in our place. And I guess, yeah, like not make help shape people's perception of the world that is just not true, because we've touched every part of this country. We've helped build every part of this country, and we have an influence on every part of this country. And I think that this is something that, of course, they just want to continue to whitewash.
100%. And so Nancy Wallace saying they can erase it from the street, but never from our mind. I thought about this next story and just thinking about your future and what they're talking about, like income and survival looks like in this country. According to a new report from the Urban Institute, a family with children in the United States need to roughly make about $145,000 a year just to be considered economically secure. Now, that number accounts for housing, food, childcare, healthcare, transportation, taxes, and a modest amount of savings. Now, it's not wealth, it's not luxury, it's the floor. 145,000 is the floor for stability. So about 49% of all Americans fall below that line. But when you break the data down by race, the picture for Black families gets significantly worse. Now, the median household income for Black families in 2024 was $56,000, according to the U.S. Census data. Now, that's 36% less than the 88,000 median for white households, okay? And it represents a gap that actually widened from the previous year, 2023. Black households earned 63 cents for every dollar, and white households brought in, and by 2024 that ratio dropped to 60 cents. So we're making 60%, and it's probably lower now, okay, than white folks. They get a higher amount. But what are your thoughts as you're preparing to leave college, start your life, and you're hearing that you have to make at least $145,000 just to survive and have a decent life? And that depends on what city you live in. Because if you're living in LA and New York and maybe even DC, it's higher. How do you feel about coming into a world like that after you leave your education? And even if you have student loans, you're thinking about all this.
Yeah. These are conversations that I have with my parents a lot. Not even in terms of money that I need to have to like start a family right now, but just money that I need to support myself as an adult. And I think, well, for one, I'm curious as to how that the $145,000 amount was calculated, because everyone's standard of living is different, right? So there are some people who are okay, I guess not, how do I say this? People are comfortable in different situations, and not everyone strives to be in similar situations or to have the same things. So I think that's a nuance that we have to take into account. But it is nerve-wracking for sure. And it's funny because my mom, she came into like adulthood around the recession of 2008. So it's cyclical, right? So these are the conversations that I'm having with her, how she was able to manage all these things as a young adult, with me as well. So I think it's nerve-wracking, but also I don't want to buy into that fear, right? So all you could do is control what you can control, and that means striving for the best opportunities, making those connections in your industry, getting creative on how you could either make more money, how you could possibly cut corners. So I think us as a people, we've always known how to survive and how to make the best out of it. So this is not something that I want to add fear to, or have that fear element be more exploited than it is right now. But yeah, this is definitely something that I have to think about further down the line. But as of now, it's me, and it's trying to crash away school.
Right. No, I mean, and it's not just for you. It's for Gen Xers. It's for baby boomers. retirements aren't what they used to be, right? You know, back in the day, it's like you work your government job, you work your 9 to 5,
Right.
you retire and you get your pension, you get your benefits, and that's not the case anymore. So, you know, for your generation, you're not thinking about, you know, working 30, 40 years in retirement. That's not the world we live in anymore. Even for me as a Gen X, that's not the world that I live in. And there's a lot of entrepreneurship going on, right? And what they're saying is the trends with AI and all of these things that, you know, entrepreneurship is going to be the way to go if you want to succeed in this world. And so the landscape is totally different. And so we just have to figure it out. So you're not alone with this. That's my point. Okay.
Before we leave that topic, I want to interrogate Aniyah a little bit more around this conversation. So, Aniyah, how many more years do you have left?
I'm actually in my last semester. So I have about
a month last semester. Okay. All right. I had this conversation with my daughter recently, so I'm worried about we're having the same conversation. Are you, let's not think about down the road. Are you concerned about, do you have a job set up for after graduation?
I do.
You do? Okay. So you're not concerned at all about leaving school and now getting off the books, your parents' books?
No, I know there's definitely a level of like, there's that transition stage that I'm thinking about, right? So between the time that I graduate and that I start my first job, I shouldn't say concerned, but reality's going to hit a little bit. I'm no longer in college, and they're no longer going to be taking care of me. But I think I don't see the value in putting concerns to things that I don't have control over. I did all that I could these 4 years to set myself up in the best position possible post grad. And I think that's what I have to make peace with. And that's what I have to carry with me. But as far as myself, no, I'm not too concerned. I do think it's important to keep in mind other people who may not feel as confident in their post-grad life and try to figure out ways to help them or to set them up with connections that you may have. But for myself, I'm not too stressed.
Is postgraduate is graduate school in your future?
Say it again?
Is graduate school in your future? Do you plan to go
graduate school? Graduate school is in my future. Not this upcoming year, but graduate school will be there in my future.
Michelle Mattis is saying your parents did a great job with you and I. Big Cheese is saying the Gen Zs must really take in consideration that AI is replacing college graduates. What are your thoughts about that? Do you feel that? Y'all are talking about that?
I mean, at this point, I don't think AI is replacing college graduates. I think AI can do a lot, but I do not think that AI, as of right now, is accurate enough on a consistent basis to be replacing college graduates. Because, I mean, we have to take into account people whose jobs can be replaced, right? So we have people who are on the pre-med track. We have people who want to be lawyers and things like that. So there are certain occupations that really cannot be replaced by AI, not at this point. So no, I don't think that AI is going to replace college graduates right now.
And Dr. Marilyn is saying most people have to have several streams of income. Are you looking at your future in that direction? Or are you just looking like, I just need to find me one job and that's it? Or are you thinking about entrepreneurship, multiple streams of income? I've
hustled a lot in college. I've always had maybe like 2 hustles going on at the same time. And that always afforded me multiple streams of income. And I think the notion of entrepreneurship and having multiple streams of income is something important. I think people should figure out what their niche is and what aspects of, I guess, their skill set is marketable in that way. But also, I don't believe in spreading yourself too thin. So if you have a job that can provide you with all the things that you need to survive, then I believe it's beneficial to put your all into that job or into that career. But that's not to say that you can't make passive income. You can have investments and things like that that are making you money on the side, but it's not something that you have to commit to every single day outside of your 9 to 5.
Dr. Marilyn is saying, yes, Aniyah, I agree. Fear is not helpful. You will do fine. All right. And since we're talking about careers, Howard University and Forbes have partnered to expand the next generation of Black business journalists. Now, the new partnership with the journalism program and the Kathy Hughes School of Communication will send a journalism student to the Forbes newsroom, expanding the pipeline that has already brought 15 Forbes HBCU scholars into the newsroom. Can you give us a little more information about this and your thoughts?
Yeah, so actually it's funny because I know all the people involved, right? So Asia Alexander, who's actually a Howard alum and a Hilltop alum as well, she kind of like, as far as I know, as to my understanding, she spearheaded this effort. And I think it's important to introduce students to different types of journalism. And like even this year for me, I was introduced to data journalism. And so having these students be exposed to very large and reputable newsrooms is important, just not only for the experience, but for the exposure as well. Because say you don't want to go to Forbes post-grad, at least you have those connections with you. And I think there always needs to be a focus on having pipelines for HBCU students, because we have to do so much just to I guess add validity to our name, right? Sometimes there are people who question the value of HBCUs and how it's actually preparing us for the real world. But these pipelines provide the mentorship and support that we need to be able to showcase our skills on a larger scale.
Mike V said, I missed it. What is Aniyah's major?
I'm an organizational communications major with a Spanish minor.
Okay. All right. And then there's another trending story that is going on at Howard University, where recently the college implemented a policy requiring athletes to stand for the national anthem. So in response, the women's basketball team has chosen to remain in the locker room during the anthem at games rather than comply. And this is according to the Hilltop. And the policy followed a December game against the United States Military Academy, in which the women's basketball team knelt during the national anthem. Now, the vice president of athletics, Carrie Davis, told the Journal of Blacks in Higher Education that the new standing mandate is about supporting our students' freedom of expression while upholding mutual respect for all communities. How's the Yard feeling about this new decision?
The Yard was shocked. There were a lot of students who couldn't really figure out how it is that they came to an HBCU and they're not able to express how they feel fully as a Black person in America. And of course, there are much larger logistics and things at play than just saying no, students can't kneel for the pledge or during the pledge. But students were shocked. I was shocked. So it was overall shock, I would say.
And so what else is the Hilltop? When we talk about what's trending this week, what's in the paper, are you guys a weekly?
Yes, we're weekly. We publish every Monday.
Okay, so what were the headlines coming out this week?
Headlines coming out this week. So, of course, we reported on our women and men's swim team taking home the NEC championships, which is a huge deal. And it just actively combats all the stereotypes that, Black people don't swim or they can't swim. So that was by far my favorite one, was the NEC championships.
And being in DC, we're talking about 250 years of America, right? And you see it all around. How is Howard curating that narrative and including the Black experience? Or are you guys thinking about ways to curate what 250 years looks like from the Black perspective?
There have been more students talking about the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I haven't heard anything from a school-wide perspective about what it is that they plan on doing, but the students, of course, want to they want to make sure that our narrative is told right, because
Love that.
even though this is 250 years for the signing of Declaration of Independence, there's still another side to that story that needs to be told. So I think students are rallying together and putting their heads together and figuring out ways that this one overarching narrative about this country doesn't get to take center stage all the time. That, you know, every side of the story needs to be told, because we were all here 250 years ago, so we all have a right to tell what happened.
I mean, I love that. And that was one of the things that I thought about when we celebrated 199 years of Black press last week. How are we curating our narrative in conjunction to what we're seeing coming out of Washington, D.C.? So I would love to, uplift your stories as you guys figure out how we tell our narrative. I think that is critical and it is important, because if we don't, it's going to be worse next year, right? This is all a setup of how they want to reframe what America is doing. I know that is Nicole Hannah-Jones still a professor on your campus?
She is. I had her last semester.
Oh, nice. And I think like that whole 1619 project is what set white folks off. They went crazy. They didn't like the true American history being told. And we know that book was about to be implemented in our public schools, and the reframing of what America is, because a lot of it is a lie. And when we know more, especially through that 1619 project. And so that's good. What were some of the takeaways that you had from her class?
Oh, there's a lot. I was taking her investigative reporting class, and that was actually my first time taking a formal class when it comes to investigative reporting. And I mean, just the mind and the genius that she has, and the expertise when it comes to investigative reporting is something that cannot be overstated. But I would say from that class, I know it's going to sound obvious, but being thorough in your reporting and your fact checking and who you call to be a source in your story was one of the biggest takeaways that I've had. And also just being clear about what story you want to tell, and being clear about who your audience is very important to me. And it was was a big lesson that I learned from her. And not being scared, like as journalists, it's our truth to tell. It's our job to tell the truth. Of course, you're gonna ruffle some feathers in the process, but as long as what you're doing is honest and is for a reason, and it's not just done to slander someone or to slander a system, then you're doing what needs to be done.
I mean, I think that is so true, and I think that's why I love, working with the Black press and working in Black-owned media, is because narrative and spin. What is the spin of the story? So we can look at a story, but we can all tell it from a different perspective, right? And so that's the gift that we have, is that we have the power to change narrative. We could look at that, for example, the Epstein file, and you could look at how it's being presented on mainstream media. But there's a whole nother side that is just totally being ignored, and that's the women, the victims. They're being ignored by, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, Bill Clinton. But the narrative about the women is lost in the story, and that is the story. Right. And so spin is so important. So I think the Kathy Hughes communications, with Nicole Hannah, professor, do you call her professor?
Yes. I do.
Professor Nicole Hannah-Jones, for them to be able, the school, her classes, to be able to tell you that you have the power to change the spin, it's critical. It's going to be critical, and the black press is something that people can come to,
yes,
and get the truth.
And also just showing us that as students, we have the ability to do all this good reporting, right? There are so many resources that a lot of students don't know are available to them. And there are so many rights that you have as an American citizen and as members of the press that many people aren't knowledgeable of. So empowering students with that knowledge and with those resources is something that's completely going to change the game.
100%. Let's
let me ask you a question before you get light. Are students discussing the Epstein files on campus, and if so, what's the attitude about it as it relates to the impact it's having on our culture?
Yeah, students are definitely talking about the Epstein files right now. It and their perspective kind of depends on who you're talking to, right? So there are some people who believe that there's just another layer of it that we're not being told. There are others who are just disinterested, because I think we're so bombarded with information and we keep seeing Epstein, Trump, file. And sometimes it becomes overwhelming, and there are people who disengage from it. But students are talking about it, but I don't think this is something that is always at the forefront of their minds. There are other things.
100%. So let's lighten things up a little bit. I don't know, this might be a little too old for you, but tonight is the night. Versus returns.
Yes.
And R&B staples Tyrese and Tank are set to bring their smooth notes to Versus. Now the singers are going hit for hit at the live event for us, the ladies, at Apple Music Studios. But as usual, fans will be able to watch the magic happen virtually. And so, are you a Tyrese and Tank fan, or is that a little too old for you?
I can't say that I'm an active fan. I definitely know their music, just being raised around like my mom and her sisters. But if I had to guess, or if I had to pick a side, I would say Tyrese.
Really?
I'm no expert, so I could be completely off base. But I'm more familiar with Tyrese.
Really? Okay. So if you could pick your versus battle tonight, who would you like to see do a versus?
Who would I like to see do a versus? That's hard.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's hard because we've seen a lot of good verses, right? And when it comes, like, people throw in the whole like Chris Brown Usher verses, right? I don't think that could happen. I think they're from two different eras, and I think some of their fan base overlaps, but they do cater to different people in different ages, right? So I'm not sure.
So who would you think Chris Brown should go against if it's not Usher? Or is he one of one?
I believe that when it comes to the artists of his generation, he doesn't there is no contemporary, right? There's not someone that you could really compare him with, solely because he's like a mix of the old school and the new school, right? So he was brought up, he was trained by people like Usher and that whole generation, but also he appeals to the younger generation. So I don't think there is someone that you could fairly bring up against him. But as far as me picking someone for a versus, that's difficult. I really don't know, because there's been so many done already.
Okay, so I'm going to give you some names, and you tell me who you think they should go against. Okay, Coco Jones. Who would be good to go against Coco Jones? Money Long?
Perhaps. I would say the first person that came to my mind was either like Chloe Bailey or Halle Bailey. I think that's a bit more fair.
For Coco Jones?
Yes.
Okay. What about SZA?
Ooh, that's a good one. SZA. SZA. I mean, first person that came to mind was Summer Walker, but that's a little bit different. I think they have a little bit of a different vibe, but SZA.
But that's a good one. I mean, I think Summer Walker. I think they could go hit for hit. It's a different vibe, but it's still the same. Or what about Ella Mai?
Ella Mai, that's a good one. I would say, if anything, I would put Ella Mai and maybe her together.
That's interesting. Ella
Yeah.
Mai and her. Okay. Okay. Somebody put in there T.I. versus 50. If T.I. and 50 did a versus, I mean, that's still, that's still your mom's age bracket. But who would you go with?
Yeah.
Atlanta. Atlanta. Okay, chat. Who do you guys have for versus? So we did the guys. What about like somebody like Olivia Dean?
Ooh, Olivia Dean. First person comes to mind is Cleo Sol.
Yes, I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing, but I think Cleo Sol would take it. I mean, she is. Yeah, she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she is like one of the most underrated artists right now. But once people are introduced to her, then they get it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Are you a gospel fan?
I grew up Southern Baptist for a little bit, so I know gospel music. I can't say I can like rattle off all the names of gospel artists though.
But okay, so let me just put this one out there. Who do you think Mary never did a versus? Who do you think Mary should do a versus against?
I think Mary should do a versus against. Ooh, I don't.
Let me think. Mary.
Yeah, give me some options. I'm not too sure.
Chad, who do you think would do good with the Mary verses? Maybe Kirk Franklin already did it with Fred Hammond.
Yeah, I didn't want to just like throw in. Yeah, I didn't want to throw in Kirk Franklin there. I already know he did it.
Maybe Yolanda Adams or
Yolanda Adams. Is it Tamala Man?
Oh, Tamala Man and Yolanda Adams would do good together in the verses.
Okay.
I think those two would do good. I think like a Hezekiah Walker and a Donald Lawrence. Are you familiar with Hezekiah? I think that would be like choir for choir.
Yeah.
That would be good. The Clark sisters and Shirley Caesar would do good together. Dallas is in the chat. She's been on the show before. But yeah, so I mean, we have to definitely tap in tonight to see what's happening with Tank, or maybe your mom is going to tap in and tell you how. Let's jump into our Black facts before we get up out of here. So on today, March 26, 1964, civil rights leaders Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X met for the first time and only time at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., while attending a Senate debate on the Civil Rights Act. There was actually a FX series about this moment that you guys can go check out. But that's what happened today in Black history. And in 1995, I don't know if you know who this is, Aniyah.
It's
but
Easy.
Eazy-E passed away. Of course, rapper Eric Wright founded Ruthless Records, was a member of the iconic NWA, and he passed away at 31 from AIDS complications. I didn't realize he was 31.
Yeah. Very young.
But that's what happened. Any closing remarks that you want to share, or let us know what's coming up in the Hilltop? Any stories that you're working on?
Yeah, so we're actually working on our last print edition of the year. It's our commencement edition. We have one every single year. It's just wrapping up the school year. I'm looking forward to that one. We usually focus on like the graduating class and the things that, they thought of the school year, their college career, and what they anticipate for the future. So I would definitely say keep an eye out for that. You can also check out our latest print edition called Reclamation of a Nation. It's our third one that we put out for the year. It's definitely a lot more, it's more like activist focused stories and how people are reclaiming our rights in a nation that we built. So you could check out all those stories on our website, thehilltoponline.com. I want to thank you again for inviting me on the show. It was great connecting with you. And yeah, I have nothing else to add. Just check us out online.
Now, when do you graduate? When are you expected to graduate?
May 9th.
Of this year?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
So we definitely have to have you on in April,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. We would love
Yeah.
to have you come back, because the chat is saying this is very refreshing to have you on the show. You bring a different dynamic, and next time you come on, we'll mix it up even more to make sure that, you know, we're having these intergenerational conversations, because they are critical for us to have, because we learn something from you and maybe you learn something from us, because basically in this chat we're Gen Xers for the most part.
Mm-hmm. she is a proponent for the
I would
reparations,
definitely love to come back, and there's always something to learn from every, and I think we learned that at the Black Press Week a bit. Intergenerational communication is very, very important, especially right now. So I loved being here, and I loved being able to connect with different generations.
For sure. Greer, you were saying something?
I was saying we want to invite Aniyah to come in and participate in the conversation about reparations. She said she's a proponent. I think it's it would be nice to hear from that generation as it relates to to reparations.
So when you come back, we'll make sure that we have a reparations conversation, because we talk about that a lot on the show, and what that looks like. Because while everything else is going on, there's still conversations that are important to our community that we still should be having and not get caught up in mainstream. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
How can we keep up with you?
Yeah, so you could, my Instagram is niyah.leigh. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just my full name, Aniyah Genama. Those are the best ways to keep up with me.
All right. So folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Of course, Jill Monroe will be with us, and we do like pop culture and for the culture conversations mixed with little news on Friday. So until then, you can visit the Hilltop for more Black news and information. And of course, for the latest in headlines and culture, visit blackpressusa.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you chat tomorrow.
Bye, you all.